Actually, we just keep with the topic because I'm a trained anthropologist. So what's typical for anthropologists is that we clarify our position. So we make clear where we come from and why we do it the way we did it. And for the first time at an OASPA conference, I'm not talking about open access in books, I'm actually talking about open access publication fees. This is a map of Germany, and right in the middle you find Goettingen, and Goettingen people believe that we are the center of gravity in Germany. And when it comes to funds, certainly this is what our university and campus received in 2011 to 2013. That's 281 million euro. And for this, there was a pretty large share on research infrastructures. That's the gray thing. Wissenschaftliche Literatur, Versorgungs- und Informationssysteme. And this included, for instance, the funding of this platform. It's the open access platform that we run in Germany. It's a joint initiative of several universities. And out of this group, we realized we actually have a we actually have a need to talk about how we as universities support our publication funds. Because the German Research Foundation has set up a program how universities can run their own publication funds for open access fees. And that started in 2009. And that was the basic idea came from Johannes Fournier. Many people of you know him. And the idea was that we have a transformation, and the DFG puts in money, additional money, but the idea is that universities cover those costs for open access APCs with their own forces. There was, in that program, we have a strict price cap of 2,000 euros. Hybrid open access is not supported, and the money that universities have to bring in will rise over the run of the program, and that's set up for 10 years. So far, it's limited for APCs for articles. I wasn't very happy about this, but that's the way it is. OpenAir has a different program. Is Pablo de Castro in here? Yeah, that's him, and he can tell you how to do it better, because I really like what OpenAir 2020 is doing in their pilot. And all proposals that universities handed in to the DFG in order to be part of that program had to include a sustainability aspect. So how are you as a university going to support open access fees on the long run? Not just with this money that the DFG gives you, but how are you going to sustain it? By now, more than 20 universities have a publication fund supported and backed up with DFG money. Actually, a lot more universities run a publication fund, but they didn't apply because the application process was pretty competitive and it wasn't very easy to get into this program. And we ran a workshop that had like 70 participants, and Johannes Fournier set up a survey before to ask how universities are actually handling these article processing fee funds. And 38 universities filled out this survey, and the average university is a full university with lots of researchers. And very important, all of these survey fill-outers, answers said open access is here to stay. And that expresses, for instance, by that the universities run repositories, they have open access policies, and they support open access on several levels. 32 of these survey answers run open access publication funds, and 6 plan to implement one. And usually it's run by the library. Usually these funds contain 83,000 euro, and that's spent on 64 articles. But that's the answers within that survey. Other numbers might be different. So we have some challenges that universities simply have to face when they run open access publication fees funds, and that one is, what is it actually? And what you see, I'm not going to walk you through those numbers, but what you see here is, for instance, the green section of my diagrams is that authors paid open access fees, and we have no idea where they got the money from, or how it was paid. So the blue chunk is what we paid through the fund. The red one is what they managed to pay otherwise, and the green is unknown. Because what we also realize is they actually like it. If we have a fund, they will make use of it. And last year, we spent a lot more than we planned, and it came up to a minus of almost 70,000 euro. That's, even though we are a large library and we are a large university, that's also for us a pretty big chunk. And the idea was that we were sort of liberal and say, yeah, just go ahead, submit your applications for the fund, and we're going to cover the costs in order to foster open access and give a good positive signal and say, yes, we are in it we are with you, but we run into problems when it comes to costs. So what's certainly needed, and that's from the university side a big challenge, is we need to model the future. And there are so many variables in this that is fairly complicated for us, because we can't just say, well, if it's too much, then we simply pay, or we say there's no money now for you, and funds are always exceeded in summertime because we need to support researchers throughout the entire year. So modeling what is coming up is pretty difficult, because we need to keep into account that libraries usually have a longer period of planning when it comes to financing. I'm also not going to walk you through those figures, but what is clear for us is that even though if we plan with a sum of 130,000 euro for the next few years, we don't really know whether we will be successful in applying for additional funds, and we also don't know what happens afterwards. So this is always sort of complicated. One of the more, and then also what we realized is a challenge is that once the public sector introduces rules, you sort of make a market distortion. And in this question, this begs the question, is the dysfunctional market anyway distorted? And can we distort it if we have central funds? This figure shows pretty clearly that the price cap that the DFG introduced by 2,000 euros reflects. So usually, most of the fees that have been paid end at these 2,000 euros. That's not a surprise. But what is important as an outcome is that the universities who were part of that workshop I mentioned, 70 universities, basically agreed on saying we will keep that price cap because it makes sense. And obviously researchers can publish with a price cap of 2,000 euro. So here's a summary of the survey and the workshop. The majority of funds are fully spent, and most of and there's a growing share of them that's overspent. And once you start to overspend funds, you have to think about how to deal with it, either throw more money in it, which I think is not a good idea, or call for other ideas. One is certainly we need to work at the back end. That makes to make authors aware they need to apply for funding in their project proposals. We need to involve faculties, which means that if they want more open access fund for their field, maybe we need to cut down on literature expenditure on the subscription side. And one of the most important results from our workshop and the survey is that hybrid open access will not be supported unless there's a very clear and very transparent offsetting model. And this goes, I think, for many German universities. And I think, that's my personal opinion, also strict price caps help because they also give transparency to publishers. And 30 seconds for one slide. Those are 5 recommendations of fields that universities, together with publishers and funders, should work on, and it's from a very interesting publication. I put the link down there. So we need pluralism. We obviously have different publication cultures and different communication cultures. We need transparency, and we need competition. And competition means, for instance, that the publishing system is not a hammock. And we need economic viability, and that also goes for processes, because universities are spending way too much time and transaction costs on processing all these fees. And in the long run, we need sustainability. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And that's it.
Thank you, Margo. Thank you very much. Is there a question for Margo before she departs the stage? No? Thank you very much. Yeah.